So for the past few weeks and probably days, I've been trying to figure out what first video should I post on my YouTube channel, Legit Lexine, which is where you're watching this review right now. And I couldn't think of a better movie to review than Wicked. After all, I just got back from watching it a fourth time. The first time I watched it was with a date. It's not important what happened to the date. Let's just say that we wound up being friends. And the second time, I actually got to see a high school friend that I haven't seen in over 20 years, which is a great reunion. And then the third time, I watched it by myself. And the fourth time, I just watched it again because, well, I was sick over the weekend after being social so much, being popular. And so I just thought, why not reward myself with more Ariana Grande and more Cynthia Erivo? Now, what would possess somebody to watch Wicked 4 times? I mean, there are people out there on threads that literally say that they've watched Wicked 13 times, which is really insane by my book. But given that, I'm about a quarter of the way there, is it really that insane? I don't think so. I think we're very normal people. But jokes aside, I want to approach this review from the perspective of just kind of looking at other kinds of musicals turned movies, or even in Disney's case, animated musicals turned movies. Because let's face it, I can't spoil anything worth shit. And yes, I said the word shit. This is that kind of channel. And to be quite honest, I'd much rather have you experience the movie by yourself if you've never seen it, and just kind of talk about certain points that came up to me when I started watching the film. And so let's just go right into it before I freaking forget about it, really. So the very first thing that I wanted to talk about in this review of sorts is how much of Wicked, part 1, by the way, the second movie, which is called Wicked for Good, is coming out literally a year later in November 2025. And the very first thing that popped into my head was, wow, this is how you do an adaptation of a musical to a movie. Now, this is not discounting the fact that there have been so many musicals that have been adopted to movies over the past several decades or so, like Les Miserables, Chicago, Sweeney Todd, which, I liked it because of Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, I suppose. But Wicked was the very first one that I literally thought to myself, they actually nailed it. This is the movie where they actually captured the spirit of the musical. And the direction of John M. Chu is just so brilliant, where every single thing just came together in this really beautiful composition of color and vibrance and darkness. And if you looked up anything about Wicked, you kind of realize that both Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande really worked hard to embody the characters that they're playing. In fact, Ariana Grande famously said a long time ago that this is her dream role. There's even interviews about how Ariana met Christian Chenoweth, who was the original Glinda in the Broadway musical, when she was 10 years old, when her Nana brought her backstage and she won a raffle or something. And so, oh my God, I'm totally fangirling about this movie. There is a point to this. So we were talking about how a lot of movie musicals don't nail this. And the very first film studio that I thought of was Disney, because over the past several years, they've tried to adapt their animated movies to live action films. And what's really crazy about Wicked, from the movements of the actors to the way that the cinematography was just worked on, it felt like an animated film. I was thinking to myself, no, these are real people. It's just that they feel so much larger than life than just just actors doing the acting thing, that they really embody the characters. And I keep comparing it to Disney's many attempts to adapt their animated films to movies. And I'm sorry if this suddenly turned into a diss track for all of those live action Disney films. I love Cruella, by the way. I mean, that wasn't adopted from an animated musical, for that matter. I just want to put that out there. Sorry, Disney. But that's essentially what I got. Every single time I watched Wicked, I kept on thinking to myself, wow, this feels like an animated film in the best possible way. And I couldn't help but just be in awe as the scenes just kind of unfolded and unfurled in front of me. Now, what's really crazy about Wicked as well is that all of the sets are practical. There are obviously CG in the film. Let's not pretend this is all practical effects, but there's a level of tangibility that the sets have that really help the actors feel physically present in those moments. Like, sure, there are blue screens and stuff like that, but even then, just having that physical space and just kind of almost embodying like what that space actually means in terms of the storytelling, you could feel it through the characters themselves, through the sound design, and it just is absolutely brilliant. I love the cameos as well. I'm not going to spoil the cameos in case you haven't seen the film. And all I'll say is that I was not spoiled about that part. And that was like a huge cameo moment for me that I just like my jaw dropped the first time I saw it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I think I just need like a little bit of time before I continue with this review because I feel like I'm going all over the place here because I really love the film. My heart rate is like super high right now. I need to calm down. I have high cholesterol. I need to just calm the F down. And of course, you're watching Wicked because of the soundtrack, right? And one of the things that I have contentions with when it comes to like other actors playing known characters is how they're going to deliver the performance and also if they're going to hit the same notes. But what's really awesome about Wicked is that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo really owned the songs. And that's the thing that's really beautiful about this movie is that it is made by fans for fans. Like every single person in this production knew the stakes. And anybody who has watched it multiple times, and I know we're an obsessed crowd, it's just immediately apparent the very first moment you lay your eyes on even the Universal Pictures logo, which is really crazy. And the choreography, I didn't even talk about the choreography. That book choreography, when Ariana just taps that book, when she's literally like, pap, 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 and then she does like the magic thing, I was like, I want to do this on TikTok. This is so amazing. In fact, they actually like posted a tutorial on how to do that exact choreography like on TikTok, which is absolutely insane and everybody's doing it. Like, I just love it. I just absolutely love the choreography in this movie. In terms of its length, the length of the movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes. And let me tell you this, like the 2 hours and 40 minutes goes by so fast because they cleverly like kind of hid the more dramatic moments in between like the song moments. And a lot of those dramatic moments were literally taken from early scripts and also the source material because not a lot of people know that this musical is actually based off of a book. And let me warn you now, the book is a lot darker than the musical. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to read the book so that I can get spoiled on part 2, well, just be ready for some really dark shit. With all that said, I heard that Wicked for Good, which is actually part 2, is going to have like new compositions by Stephen Schwartz, who by the way makes a cameo in the film as well. And after watching it 4 times, I did notice that the word good was actually repeated more than once. It actually is almost like this driving thread that shows up throughout the entire film. Like whether, you know, Madame Morrible says it or whether Galinda says it, it's really interesting how that word keeps getting thrown around. And I think that's going to get paid off in the sequel, especially because For Good is one of the best songs in the second half of Wicked. And in case you're wondering, and you are a theater aficionado, practically part 1 is literally the first half of the musical. So the second half is literally the second part of the musical, plus a lot more detail that the musical can't really go over in its, I don't know, 3-hour run or something like that. But that being said, the point still stands that 2 hours and 40 minutes is going to go by really quickly. I think that's one of the reasons why, like, a lot of us who have watched a movie multiple times, we're like, it doesn't feel like 2 hours and 40 minutes. To me, seeing Wicked again, it almost feels like you are transported to the land of Oz. And there's so much reverence to not just the source material, the musical, but also the original Wizard of Oz movie and storyline as well, that it just makes my heart melt every time I think about like what will happen in the second act in part 2 next year and how that affects the story of the Wizard of Oz. And to me, like, that's just something that like I just can't wait to watch, and pretty sure probably gonna watch a lot of that as well. So when it comes down to it, if I were to score Wicked from a scale of 1 to 5 with no decimals, I definitely give it a 5. It is probably the biggest movie event of the year, and you should go watch it, like literally right now. Wicked's 2 hours and 40-minute runtime really is going to go by fast, thanks to Ariana Grande's fantastic Galinda and Cynthia Erivo's excellent Elphaba, and the soundtrack, which is just absolutely phenomenal, and just these actors just made it their own. I hope that my enthusiasm for Wicked has come across in this video, and I hope to see you on future videos. And if you've watched Wicked, please post what you think of the movie in the comments below, and whether you're looking forward to the second movie. And better yet, are you gonna drag other people to watch Wicked alongside you so you can, increase that counter to like number 2, number 3, number 4, all the way to like 13? Let me know in the comments below so we can talk about it. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this review, and yeah, I'll see y'all later. Bye.